So I'm here with Brett Gribble. Hello, Brett. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good.
Cool. For listeners, Brett is a very good friend of mine who is very familiar with state of mind and is an actor, which is kind of cool because we've been having discussions around art and state of mind for a long time. And I merely talk to this guy because it's a very pleasant conversation. We just have way too much fun. And hopefully, apart from an endless amount of laughter and joy, we get to explore a little bit about state of mind and being in the present moment and doing art and all that stuff. So welcome, man. Good to have you.
Yeah, thanks, huh? Yeah, it's fun for me too. I never know what we're going to talk about often, but it's always ends up really interesting conversation. So
Yeah, it's an ongoing exploration of whatever comes up, varying from all weird things.
Yeah.
So for starters, for the listeners, Brett is on the other side of the world. So whenever we talk, I get to speak to morning Brett, or he gets to speak to evening Hank or morning Hank, because it's always the opposite.
I have my little different hats that I wear, my morning hat and my evening hat. So
Yeah,
my split personality.
yeah, it's true. I'll be coughing during this interview. I might be editing that out if I feel like it. So we were actually talking about being in the present moment and having less on your mind. And I figured this is a really useful conversation, so I figured we record it and possibly release it into the wild.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So that leaves us at this blank space where there's nothing. So what comes up for me is as you've learned more about state of mind, how did you start looking different at acting, or is that are you still the same guy as you were before, or is there any?
I think there's a lot. It's actually changed now. A big part of acting is the ability to connect with somebody else. So, if you're in a scene and you can't, that connection isn't there with the partner, it's everything else pretty much falls apart. So it's like the glue that really holds it together.
Yeah.
And I just find with my understanding of state of mind is that a lot of my thinking drops away. I'm able to be a lot more present with somebody. I'm able to perhaps see things a little deeper, and what's going on for them, the awareness of myself. And so the work itself, like the acting, a scene actually feels like it's dropping down deeper. It's more, there's more depth, there's more going on. Yeah, it's not so much just I guess if you would say a definition of good and bad acting is perhaps just two sort of talking heads.
Yeah.
It's a very intellectual thing. Good acting, if you want to say good acting,
Yeah,
the
sure.
acting that I enjoy is it's bringing your full being into it. It's a full body, it's visceral, it's your heart, your mind, your body, your whole being, and just there's so much more there with that type of work. And I just find myself connecting a lot quicker, a lot deeper with people, and that's definitely, it shows up with acting and with the work that I do now. So yeah.
You don't know this, but this what you just described applies completely to character animation as well, except the other person is just the thing you're creating. So what you describe is the connection to the work, is the connection to the character in front of you, and
Yeah.
and really feeling like that's an actual person. So it comes alive, and you start imagining like if he's like with character animation, you're animating like very small scenes, like just a couple of seconds. But within those seconds, you need to be aware of like it rarely goes deep as a heartbeat, but you're definitely aware of their breathing, and what does the body do, what are they like. That's just a physical level, and then as you described, like to get in there with your whole being. I think the great animators they truly connect with the character, and they kind of it becomes an extension of them. But you can only do that if you're truly. I don't know. I would almost say like you truly get down deep in there and really believe that this character is. Don't even believe that character is real. That character has a. Like you change the pose because you know that arm is uncomfortable. That muscle needs to be like a little different, and that character is doing this in this moment because that's what makes most sense to that character in this moment. And for me, that's when character animation changes from moving stuff beautifully, which is very cool, and moves beyond talking heads, which is a very familiar thing in animation as well, and to where you just like it comes alive. It starts breathing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's what people want to see. You know, we want to see human beings. We want to see something that we're moved by, or touched by, inspired by. And if it feels robotic, it feels mechanical, it doesn't feel that, it doesn't have that visceral, those feelings, then, you know, we find it very hard to sort of, to connect to what's happening, to really care, actually, to really care about a story, about a character, you know. It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think like vulnerability comes up too, like being vulnerable, yeah. And that's such a key part of acting, you know, the ability to kind of just go in there and
to show up fully, to
show up fully, to make, you know, to kind of, some ways it's just like the ability to make a dick of yourself sometimes, you know.
Yeah. Just try something.
Yeah.
I like what you said in our last conversation. You talked about Joaquin Phoenix, how he searches for truth.
Yeah.
I found that pretty cool. It's such a.
Yeah, and I think that's, for me, the type of acting that I like and I enjoy is not necessarily the most technically proficient acting. It's that wildness, that spontaneity, that ability to hunt for the truth.
Yeah.
And, you know, the opposite of that is the sort of Michael Caine, who's, you know, very technically proficient, and he's written a whole book about, you know, where to stand and how many paces to hit his mark, and, you know, it's you know, and he's very good at what he does.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, I just that Joaquin Phoenix is just that type of acting, you know, where it's just so raw and real, and you know, just so impacted by a performance, and that's you know, someone I can't take my eyes off, that I just want to keep watching because I don't know what he's going to do next, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about Daniel Day-Lewis? How does that rate for you, or what do you think about that? How does that?
Oh, I think he's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's another one that's kind of like that. You know, he's just again, really raw, really vulnerable. Brings like his whole self into the work, into acting. And I'm just trying to think of some of his performances that I really like. You know, So like animals as well. Like he'll come up with a animal and embody that. I'm thinking like Last of the Mohicans. He might have used something like that. But yeah, I think he's amazing.
It sounds almost like we're getting a little theoretical here, but it's really enjoyable to see a human being be a human being fully, more than you would ever see like in the street.
Mm.
Because it feels for me that in most cases, most people on the streets they're natural, yes, they're natural, but they're also walking around with their "this is my going to work" face, or this is my going to party face. It's very rare to see someone who is that who is that comfortable with just being himself.
Yeah.
Which I find very interesting about state of mind. We rarely really dig into this, but the fact that once you see that your experience of life is created by thought, and you start seeing that there's actually not that much to be afraid of, like far less, and you're far less. There's far less reason to panic, and far less reason to be afraid, and far more reason to just show up fully.
Mm.
Like I'm really digging here because I haven't really explored this yet, but like for me the one reason that I started these podcasts is because I want most artists primarily to suffer less, because it's very easy to get caught up in deadlines or try to perform when you're not feeling it, and be a professional at the same time.
Mm.
But slowly but surely, as I'm moving away from that, like I can, even on a bad day, I can do like pretty decent work. I become more interested in like what's possible. Like nobody has explored, like very few people have explored what happens when you have a very good understanding of how your experience of life works, and then to fully run with that. Because for me, even the great animators, they still suffer from anxiety and like I don't feel good enough, and these things that are absolutely not necessary. They're, like once you see that falls away, and you're free to show up like even more.
Mm.
And so part of me is like, what would happen when a generation of artists like understands this? Still, you're still human. You're completely human, but you're not. You're far less inhibited by, I would say, personal fears. Like a fear of a tiger, I would call an actual fear, like something that it's in the moment. But personal fear is just that all the things that relate to you, like I'm not good enough, or I'm never gonna make it, or today I'm not, I'm not doing well, or all these little things that we sort of know aren't really helping us, but like most people aren't able to drop those thoughts.
Mm.
Like if that, and I've seen this with you, once that drops away, you get to see a human being that is just riveting to listen to. There's like this freshness to it.
Mm.
That was a long rant, but
Yeah, as you're saying that, I think that's a big part of it, and being able to bring like that messiness into the work too. I think there's a point. I think if it's becoming like, we all have fears, we all have insecurities, we all have all those things, but having some space, and this is what I find with State of Mind, is there's space around it. I feel like I can hold those things more now. Like they're not overwhelming, that they're not paralyzing, and so I can bring those things. I can bring my fears and that messiness kind of into something that I'm doing, but it's not overwhelming. It's not being crippling that I just feel I can't do anything. Right? You know, so, yeah, and just like, I guess for being an actor, you know, bringing that, I can't remember who said it. Someone said perfectionism kills art.
Yeah.
You know, and the need to try and do it right all the time, and be good enough. Yeah, that can be very constricting for a lot of people. So, yeah. So, you know, bringing your fears and your insecurities, but you know, also having, what I find is just having space around that now too. You know, you can, for me, like I can still do a scene or do something, but not have it just stop me from being in the moment and being creative. Yeah.
It sounds like, as you were saying that, you still get the same feeling like everybody else, right?
Yeah.
But you're able to stay in the game because you're able to drop those feelings. You're not. It doesn't. I wouldn't say slow down, but it doesn't. I kind of like what you said. There's space around it, like it kind of has room. There, you don't get constricted by it. I think that's.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to show up like completely and never or rarely have to hold back because you're there and you're aware and you're.
Yeah, I think like it's not. I would say with this understanding, it makes you more resilient. Like just as a person, you can recover a lot quickly from things that don't go so well. You take feedback a lot better. Just general stress, worry, anxiety isn't so. You're not so impacted by it that you can't be at your best.
You know, here's the funny part. As you're saying that, I'm thinking, yes, that's true, and that's true. The reason why I think it falls away is because you're not doing anything, right? For me, I rarely I go, oh, I have to drop this thought. This thought isn't real, so I have to think about it to make it go away. No, it makes no sense to hold on to it. It's illogical. Because it's, and I'm not able to articulate this at this time, interestingly, but once you see, like everybody sees that insecurity isn't helping you, the thing is that most people would then do whatever they can to get rid of it.
Yeah.
While instead, once you realize that it's not, like you got the feedback that your thinking isn't as clear as it could be, and you're seeing the world in a way that doesn't logically make sense, right? Insecurity doesn't say anything about your abilities at all. Otherwise, really skilled people would be very secure, which is nonsense. And there's very secure people who are very non-skilled, which we call amateurs. That's very mean of me. Oh, that's very mean of me. Right? So, and you could say, yeah, it's good to have insecurities because it keeps you sharp and whatever. But once you understand that a certain thought makes no sense, you don't even have to hold on to it. You can't even remember it. It just falls away because there's nothing to hold on to. Like I could I don't know. I usually have a fun metaphor, but like I guess I could talk about traffic lights, and then in a way that makes no sense to you, you wouldn't be able to remember it because it makes no sense. It's gibberish, and then so once you start seeing that insecurity is essentially gibberish, it just falls away.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this, like as you're saying that now, I think a lot of this like happens almost unconsciously. Perhaps for me now, I'm not. I think all my thoughts are dropping away. It's just, it's just kind of happening. Um,
Yeah, and
mm,
that's what I would call that space that you described. Right? There's this. You don't what's called a head full of thinking. You have a clear head, and
mm,
you're naturally present most of the time.
mm. Yeah, and I think that's really important, particularly for creative people. That it almost seems that that kind of industry or that creative industry seem to be filled with a lot of people that do have um, perhaps more insecurities, perhaps because of something that they're choosing that is sort of outside the mainstream. And so, the more space, as you say, you can have around that, um, it definitely helps you to stay in the game and to keep sticking with something you're passionate about.
Yeah. I think most artists have a very good awareness of what they're feeling, which is like
Mm.
sort of essential for the craft.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think, yeah, artists particularly have a good sense of feeling and intuition. So I think with state of mind, it's almost like they, um, well, certainly for me and possibly for you too, I'm not sure. It's almost like um, it's take to it quite quickly because it's quite intuitive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it feels quite natural. Yeah.
Here's the fun part, though. The people that I know that are doing well in business have a similar sense of awareness of their feeling. They have this
Yeah.
gut feeling that they use.
Mm.
So part of me is like, oh, actually, it's not unique to artists, but it is.
Mm.
It is a very good skill to have that awareness of how you're feeling. But for artists, it's like you live or die with how well you're able to convey feeling.
Yeah.
Which comes with the flip side if you don't understand how the system works, because you get to fully experience your agony and your pain and your love. And right I'm not sure if
Yeah.
you did you have this when I went to art school. My highs would get much higher and my lows would get much lower. Like it.
Yeah. I've certainly had that, particularly in certain classes that I've been in. I've had these amazing feelings of absolute highs, seeing really well, just being fully in it, really dropped in. And other times where just kind of, depending on the scene or the type of method that I'm using, I just come away sometimes feeling like shit. And I think if you are more of a feeling person, you can certainly, there's an element of kind of caution in that, because you can kind of get to these lows, and if you don't know how to kind of bring yourself out of that, and you can start ruminating and get really caught up in that horrible, yucky feeling. So I find, for me personally now, I recover, even if I'm having to do something that's a bit dark and a bit, there's more, like I say, there's more space around it, and I sort of bounce back a lot quicker. Even if I have to go into sort of uglier things like anger or grief or something like that, I'm not so caught up in it that, I recover from that sort of quicker.
Yeah. For me, the recovery part is, I kind of take that for granted, and I'm quite fine with that. For for me, the agony is I run into trouble in trying to get to the best place possible, because I love, like artists love being in the zone.
Yeah.
Especially if you're behind a computer, it's very nice to sort of have just connect with it rather than feeling it like a dead box, which it can feel like.
Mm.
And the trying to get there is so counterproductive.
Yeah. What do you mean? You like being in a flow state?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so essentially it's the desire to be in the present moment, but that desire is keeping you from the present moment, which is a very ironic thing. And I find that the few artists that I know that I consider exceptional are they basically sit down and they feel whatever they feel and they get to work.
Mm.
And then from there they will find themselves in the flow state or not. But there's never concern around it. But I found that such a beautiful lesson, as in you don't need to do any thinking around it in order to get there. Any moment you start doing thinking around it to get to a certain state, you're essentially lost.
Mm.
You might still accidentally get there, right? And then attribute it to your morning cup of coffee or the 10 push-ups you did or the cold shower or meditation or whatever comes up for you. But in the end, it's when you stop trying to get there and stop spending thought on it and let it all drop away, and then you're there, essentially.
Mm. Yeah, it's like the metaphor, I guess, where you're chasing something that keeps running away from you, and yeah, it's almost like taking it back to state of mind, this sort of inside out, like you're chasing something outside of you, a feeling again.
Yeah.
When that feeling is already there, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a dog trying to get a tail. Like, I need a tail.
Yeah.
I need a tail.
Yeah.
I need it so bad. I see a tail. I have to get it. Go, go, go. Tries and gets it. It isn't until you realize that you have the tail in the first place. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then you settle down and you're there.
Yeah.
I think that's the strongest metaphor too.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
It's like there's a saying that I heard today that made me laugh. It was like, on a really high level, there's this saying that says you cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that it was created at, which is sort of hard to get. So someone said it in different words, and he said, don't ask the idiot who made the problem to fix it. Which makes instantly sense. It's like, yeah, if you're lost and you're going to try and fix a problem that you created from when you were lost, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just taking you more and more into your thinking about,
Yeah, which is not needed.
Mm. Yeah, really, I'm just going back to when you're talking about dropping away, like the thoughts, and it's just taking it back to, like, you do all your homework, you do all your preparation before you do a scene, but then you have to be willing to just let it go.
Yeah.
And see whatever arises in the moment. And if you've got a lot on your mind and you're fixated to the ideas of how it should be, then the performance is not going to be so good. You're not going to be really in that moment with that other person. You're not going to be aware of your senses and everything else that's going on. The performance is going to be more sort of wooden. It's not going to be as fluid. You're not going to have the connection to your partner, to your scene partner. It's you're not going to be so in touch with what you're feeling in the moment, and yeah, it's just not going to come across as being as being as real or as authentic as it could be. So, yeah, you have to be willing to let go of what you think should happen, or what you expected to be open to what is happening in the moment, and it could be very different in the moment. I think people run into trouble with acting, whereas they feel they have to do something that they had planned or something that they've done before, like recreate that. It's just it doesn't work like that, you know. So, yeah.
As you're describing this, it almost sounds like having active thought is like holding onto bricks. Right? You use as you said about preparation, you use the bricks to lay the foundation. But once you've done that, you let them be, and then you don't hold on to them anymore because they're done. You're looking to hold on to any sort of concept in your mind. It's like holding on to bricks. It's slowing you down tremendously. You might still get you might still get the job done, but it feels hard. It feels very hard, and that's actually your mind telling you to just back off. You don't need to hold on to this. There's no need, and that's why it feels hard, right? That's just a very clear signal to like you're using thought in a way that's not beneficial.
Yeah, I think it's about trusting yourself and your own impulses and what's coming up for you, and just going with that.
Yeah. Here's a fun thing though. This is more about cooperation, but I noticed that when you work with someone, or when you dance with someone, or I suppose when you are in a scene with someone, when both people are fully present, or even when one person is fully present, usually the other person joins that, and then you have two persons being present, and that the sum of that is way more than two. It's not 1 + 1.
Yeah.
It becomes 1 + 1 equals, depending on how clear you are, it becomes 2, and then it almost feels like it's not two separate people anymore. It's one thing learning and evolving, which sounds very weird, but I see you smiling. It's
beautiful, man. I think that's like that cooperation, and that almost like being in sync with somebody else is just for any form of art. I think that's so important, and particularly I'm thinking about acting. I would say it's bad acting. It's it's competitive. It's like it's trying to one up the other person.
Yeah.
And I won't say any names, but certain actors that it's their scene. Yeah. It's their scene, and they come on, and it's about ego.
Yeah.
And it makes them. Perhaps it makes them look good to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But at the expense of making somebody else look bad.
Yeah.
And for me, that's not really what I want to watch.
Yeah.
I want to see two people kind of working the scene together and working together in harmony, Yeah. It could be the scene could be quite dramatic, could be a fight or something, but you're still working together.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a term in theatre called upstaging, which is, probably heard, where one person comes on and suddenly like volume increases and they come on and they're like, here I am.
I'm stealing, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah, and when done right, that's like this is easily to be talked about intellectually, like the needs of the scene and what does the scene need, etc. But the thing that I just realized is when you truly become that present, when you then have that little thinking going on around it, you don't really think about the needs of the scene. You are the scene, right? Because then the whole need to upstage someone or to hit a certain mark in some way is like that's personal thinking. That's active thinking that you're holding on to in the moment, which is actually not helping. And as I'm saying that, it almost sounds like being in the zone is just having no unneeded thought going on. There's just what is, and that is that's probably like an amazing use of thought, and like you get a feedback signal from that because it feels amazing for a good reason. It feels quite good. And I wouldn't say not as in not as in this crack pipe shot. There's just this clear feeling of this clearness to it, this deep feeling to it. And there's no. In some ways, I guess it's not. Would that be addictive? I guess that's addictive in some way. That's a very pleasant thing to experience. I guess you could. I could. I guess in some moments you could miss that, which is what most artists do. But then to get back there, that's not the way to go. Because when you're missing it, you're already using thought to remember what was instead of what is. It sounds very confusing. It makes sense to me, but I guess some people are listening to this. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? This makes no sense.
Yeah, but I mean, I think. Here we go. Think. When you're seeing it, you're seeing it, and when you're not, you're not.
Yeah.
And if you weren't seeing it, then you wouldn't be able to see it. I mean, if you didn't have it's like night and day. You need both. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And you start picking up when you're not seeing it, which is I find quite beautiful. Just the awareness, like, oh, I truly feel like I need to be in the zone right now, which sort of translates to I'm not seeing it currently. I'm not. And that doesn't say anything about the potential to get there or the potential to create something great, which is a mistake that I've made. Like, oh, I'm not feeling it. I'm tired, and I'm like I don't know. I have no clearness. I need to get like a good state of mind.
Yeah.
Which is frankly and luckily isn't needed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as you're saying that, like, I think, you show up how you show up sometimes, and a big part of it is just acting anyway. Like it's still just taking action.
Yeah.
You could easily say, well, I'm not feeling it right now, and I need to be in that kind of flow state before I can, that's the ideal. It's like the.
Yeah, that's what I need before. I need to be at my best.
Yeah.
Which is what I love about the animators that I have a lot of respect for, is that they work with what they have.
Yeah.
What they have is what they have, and then that's it. And the beauty of that is that that's how you get there. That's how you get into the zone or not. Because you accept what is. You're like, I'm here. I'm here doing the work. If it goes well, it goes well. If it doesn't go, it doesn't. Whatever. And there's no unnecessary. There's no extra program running that's checking. Am I in flow yet? Am I in flow yet?
Yeah.
No. It's not there. Which is perfect. Which is just what you need.
What sort of animation do you really kind of dig? What do you? I'm just kind of curious now. Like, I mean, it sounds like you work a lot with sort of characters and
Yeah.
yeah.
It changes. I have times where I completely dig this big raw characters doing physical stuff, smashing stuff around, just the pure physicality of it, of a big character moving his way to grab something heavy and then smacking that somewhere else, and just the fury of that, and so you get to spend time on making these poses which are just enormous. You really push the body to get these shoulders out and like get the force in the hands and get this expressiveness, like kind of like Atlas, like lifting the world, that kind of stuff. I find that there are times when I find that deeply satisfying to just work on a pose like that, just sit down and just get to it and just really feel the flow through the body and that.
Mm.
And the other part is when there's a character that is struggling with something mentally. So there's a scene that I animated that I really enjoyed, because it's a character who's like he's like promoting somebody away, but he's not firing him, and so it's a talking scene of a guy sitting,
Mm.
and he's just like, there's so much going on in his head, but he's trying to like make the other person feel okay, but he really feels kind of poor about it. But he tries his best, and he like makes it the best possible. And there's so much to put in there. I spent so much extra time in getting, like, every time I thought I was done, I could go back and add like more. I could add more thought into it. Like I could add more like little twitches and things that were still in line with the acting. It would still work.
Mm.
Right? He would stutter before he'd speak, or he would just like lift his shoulder a little, or just like all these like this stuff that makes him come alive. And then there's just a few the fun simple stuff of a cute character just being this, has this lightness to it. This just like, I animated a character who grabs a gun, which is a pretty dry thing to do, but then I figured he's very excited and he's just like and he grabs a gun like a Western guy and just spins it in his arms, which is technically very difficult to do. It's like a total nightmare.
Wow.
But in the end, it's like you can see that excitement in the character, and everybody's like, "That's cool, that's cool." So I guess that's what comes to mind.
Mm.
What about you? What do you like to act?
I you know what, I just I don't even mind so much what I'm doing now.
Mm.
I just enjoy any type of performance so much more now. Whether it's a lot of this sort of work with acting is just commercial work, you know, so it'll just be something simple. It may be just a few lines, it may be nothing, it may just be a physical thing. But I find that I can just kind of drop in a lot quicker and then come out. I guess ideally something, you know, a character that's quite sort of meaty and it's got a lot of levels to them. You know, I enjoy playing characters that are quite sort of dark sometimes, because it's like a stepping to something that's a little different from my personality.
Yeah.
But it varies, you know. And I think certainly, you know, the level I'm at, I'm not going to get a huge amount of massive depth of characters, and you know, but it's just enjoying so much more, like, I guess, what the level of performances that I do, which I think is really such an important part. and this is what I find with state of mind is just going in with a clear head and just that feeling, that nice feeling, and a lot of it is like, particularly if you're walking into a casting agent, so much is how you're coming across, and this is just for anything really. It doesn't matter whether you're, a banker or a butcher or anything, but people connect a lot quicker. They're with you. They're, there's a nicer, people, particularly I think in I shouldn't say particularly, but within the creative fields, people are quite sensitive and they pick up on energy and that. So if you come across, at your best, it might be just that makes a difference between, booking a job and not booking a job.
Yeah.
So, that's a big part of it, is just the enjoyment of what you do. Yeah.
And just looking at the time, we're closing in on 46, 50 minutes. Is there anything you want to discuss for this one? Is there anything you...
I think I'm pretty good. Yeah.
I'm currently working on a module on flow for state of mind. On creativity and flow. And creativity, I find, is such a... Like, I figured it was going to be pretty simple. And then as I'm writing it down, I'm like, this is like a 90-day course. There's so much in there. There's the whole deal with like not getting a noisy head, like a lot of things.
Yeah.
And what you described is just the beauty of like showing up fully and enjoying whatever comes your way.
Yeah.
And then the recovery of just when you lose it, you get back quicker. Like it's...
Seriously, dude, like, I just think this is such a big part of it, no matter what kind of level you're at. Like, if, people talk about enjoying the process, you're going to get better. The more whatever you're at, you're going to get better.
Yeah.
But if you're not enjoying it and you're insecure, you're pissed off, you're frustrated all the time. I talk to I think acting in particular, there's a lot of people that are very frustrated, very cynical. And they talk about the people that are in that sort of, and particularly like, with New Zealand, there's like a very small group of actors perhaps that are working a lot, and they talk about how to break through and get those auditions with, the sort of elite sort of theatre companies and that. But around their thinking, they're already creating this. So they're saying there's them versus us.
Yeah.
There's them who have already made it, they've established. Why can't we get opportunities? Poor me. It's like you're only one step. You're only maybe a couple of steps away from being in that group of people. But if your thinking around it is, I'm not there yet. I'm not. You're working. You're not coming across how you present yourself into the auditions that you do have. There's that. I mean, people pick up on that. People pick up on the fact that you're not so much enjoying this, that you feel like you're not quite there yet. It's like, I think you have to show up with, I'm grateful to be here, that I have an audition. I get to do, even if it's a limited amount of time, but I get to do for a limited amount of time, I get to do something I really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's a luxury. It's a privilege to be able to do that. And if I keep showing up, I keep improving, and just enjoying it, where it takes me and where I end up doesn't matter so much.
Yeah.
I think that's such an important thing. We're so like fixated on results, and acting's about like that too, like cry on this line, get pissed off when you say this, say this in a certain voice, that's results focused direction, which like kills creativity of an actor, and an actor freezes up when they're told by a director that they have to do this certain way. You know, here's how you do this scene. Just shut up. You become a meat puppet.
Yeah, this is what I need you to do.
Yeah, so just do it like this, and the good actors will just ignore that.
Yeah.
And they'll just do it how they do it, and what comes up. And the director will be like, yeah, that was good. Yeah, I like that.
That's nice, huh? I kind of like the fact that once you start seeing beyond what someone else thinks they want, right? Because we have the same deal with like you're working with directors or clients, and they rarely know because they have a good overview of what's needed in the big picture, but they need you for the details usually, and the details you're like much better aware of. And so you like if you take that freedom which you have and you give them something that's better, they're like they either accept it as their own idea or they accept it as your idea or whatever, but they're like I rarely get in my limited experience as an animator so far, I rarely get shot back with it. Like if an idea is truly good for the scene, that is usually like either accepted or celebrated because it's you're delivering more than they're asking for, and they're like, "Wow, that's good. That's a good at nice."
And the more that you're out of your head and you're in your intuition, you're able to access that more.
Yeah.
And you're able to make right decisions for something or something unexpected that somebody might have thought of that ends up being awesome,
Yeah.
And if it's not right, people can just come back to you. But I think it's so important to be autonomous in how you, because that can, and that's difficult. That's difficult. Certain people don't like that. Other people are more open to that. But, you can say yes to something. Okay, I'll give that a try. And then if it doesn't feel right to you, it's important to be able to say no. Say no, that's not. I'm not getting that. Can you explain that to me another way? Or, to be empowered as a person, as an artist, is such an important thing because that's your own creativity. That's your own piece of your own spirit or soul or essence of you, and whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
And you don't want to become a victim. You don't want to become somebody that just follows orders.
As you're talking, I just realized that because everybody shifts in their level of consciousness, everybody shifts from very, very ego-driven, like I need this, I'm so struggling, I'm to their like what you, I guess you could call it refer as your higher self, which is very selfless and very present and in the moment and aware of what's like all the details of the context. And so I think people have a very intuitive understanding of where somebody is at. Like when you meet somebody who is very ego-driven, you're kind of inclined to push away or not take their advice as much. And when they're like very clear and open and collaborative, you're much more inclined to listen. And so as you're talking around, I need you to go here, step on this line and cry. I think if you show up with very little thinking around it, you're just like, okay, cool, let's explore that. What I find for me is that the people you work with pick up on that because they're like, hey, this guy listens. This guy wants to work with me. This isn't like there's no competition here. This is a collaboration. And suddenly, because you're showing up like that, even if someone else doesn't know jack shit about state of mind, they appreciate it because they're getting listened to and they're working with you. And then suddenly you get leeway.
And I think as your consciousness rises, the people around you will shift too, and you'll gravitate towards certain people, and certain people will gravitate more towards you.
Yeah. Nobody says I hate Buddha. Buddha was a dick. Buddha stole my food. Right?
Ah, he's such a day. Fuck him. Fuck Yoda.
Right? Nobody says that. Nobody.
Yeah.
Guess why? Oh, yeah. On that note, shall we wrap this one up?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
On that note.
Oh, right. Thank you so much, Brett, for your time. That was a wonderful conversation. Conversation.